Hi, I'm Dr. Jodi Mindell, and I'm going to talk about sleep success for infants and toddlers. I'm going to talk about two things today. First of all, I'm going to talk about normal sleep in infants and toddlers, and the second thing is I'm going to talk about prevention and treatment of night wakings and bedtime problems. The first thing I want to do is show you some data that came from a Glaustein. This is a very interesting paper that was published in Pediatrics in 2003, and what you can see across the bottom is age. So 1 month, 3 months, 6 months through 16 years of age, and hours up the top. This was a study done over 20 years. It's European data, and they collected data every year for 20 years on certain children, as well as they collected new children every year. The thing that's so interesting about it is they did it like a growth curve. So the second percentile is down at the bottom, the 98th percentile is at the top, and the 50th percentile in the middle. The thing that's most interesting about this and why I'm showing it to you today is because of what we see in the infants. Is up to about a year and a half, there's incredible individual variability. So when your patients are talking to you about how much sleep a 9-month-old or a 10-month-old gets, they don't need to be concerned about it too much because of that individual variability. The thing that changes, though, is in toddlers. Toddlers have much less individual variability, and as children get older, that variability stays quite narrow. So remember that as I talk about the different ages. So first of all, infants. Infants, we're talking about 3 to 12 months olds. During the night, infants get between 9 and 12 hours of sleep. Naps are also going to change. A 3-month-old may be taking 3 or 4 naps a day, where a 1-year-old is really taking 2 naps a day. There are some infants who take 3 short naps a day for many times throughout the day, 3 or 4 times. That's totally normal until about 9 or 10 months. Sleep problems are common. 20 to 30% of parents report difficulties falling asleep and staying asleep, as well as other types of sleep problems during those ages. Some common infant sleep issues: transitioning from the bassinet to the crib. You really want to make that transition by about 3 months of age. Developmental milestones are also going to disrupt sleep. So things like crawling, pulling to standing. The 2 weeks before a baby starts walking, you really see that sleep becomes difficult. Night wakings are the most common problem that parents report for infants. Toddlers, 1 to 3-year-olds. Total sleep times are between 12 and 14 hours. Most toddlers make the switch from 2 naps a day to 1 nap a day by 18 months. Some at 20 months, some at 14 months. It really is going to be individual. And it's not that they make that change all of a sudden in one day. There may be several weeks to even a month where you really have this transition time. Some common toddler sleep issues: transitioning from a crib to a bed. It's going to be a difficult time for parents. Parents who make that transition too early, closer to 2, are going to have a more difficult time than those who do it closer to 3. 3 is a much better time cognitively for toddlers to make that change. Developmental milestones are going to continue to disrupt sleep. Calling out and climbing out. Having your toddler be able to call you, tell you what's wrong, plea for you, is going to make it more difficult for parents to set limits. Okay, climbing out, where before they were staying in their crib, now your toddler is going to show up in a doorway at 2 o'clock in the morning and be there awake. And finally, bedtime problems really crop up during toddler times. So before we really saw night wakings, now we're starting to see both night wakings and bedtime problems. So I want to go on and talk about night wakings and bedtime problems. Night wakings. Okay, the most important thing to understand is that nighttime arousals are normal. We know from data from Dr. Avi Sadeh and other labs that all infants and toddlers wake between 3 and 6 times per night. So the problem is typically not the waking, but why can't the child fall back to sleep on their own? And we divide them between the self-soothers and the signalers. The self-soothers are the ones who wake up in the middle of the night, put themselves right back to sleep. Their parents never know about it. The signalers are the ones who wake up and call to mom, dad, grandma to help them fall back to sleep. The issue is typically what we call negative sleep associations, which is however a child falls asleep at bedtime is what they need to fall back to sleep when they naturally wake up during the night. So if you rock your baby to sleep at bedtime, you're going to be rocking them back to sleep every time they naturally wake up. If you nurse your baby to sleep, if you drive them in the car to sleep, if you put them in a stroller to sleep, whatever you do at bedtime, parents are going to need to repeat that in the middle of the night. So we really look at these babies typically have a difficulty self-soothing and need some kind of parental intervention to help them fall back to sleep. The second is bedtime problems. It's the bedtime stalling, the bedtime refusing, the bedtime struggles. Curtain calls, we often refer to, is a child calling out, needing one more thing. They need one more drink, they need one more trip to the bathroom. So that's going to have parents have a difficult time setting limits. So it's going to lead to toddlers primarily who have take a long time to fall asleep. So if you divide them, and you can see on this chart, what I did was put bedtime problems at the top and night wakings at the bottom. For infants, bedtime problems are mostly difficulty falling asleep independently. We're also starting to see some separation anxiety as object permanence develops. For toddlers, you start seeing some resistance at bedtime, often as a result of the strive for independence. Okay? Also, separation anxiety is going to peak between 18 and 24 months, again making it difficult for toddlers to separate from their parents at bedtime. Night wakings. Again, for infants, we're looking at negative sleep associations. Nighttime feedings, very difficult for parents to start to differentiate when their child is hungry or when they should be past it. Most infants no longer need nighttime feedings after 6 months if their growth and development are on track. Toddlers, independence, again, is going to disrupt sleep during the night. Toddlers are also starting to understand cause and effect. They understand that what they do is going to lead to a response from their parents. So if they call to their parents or they ask for a trip to the bathroom, their parents are going to respond to that.